Hey guys, coming at you today with a traditional holiday recipe made keto. Some delicious pecan tassies. So, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alycia and I'm a pastry chef with a sweet tooth. And now I own a keto gluten-free bakery. And I'm here to show you all the tips and tricks on how to make the best recipes possible. So if you enjoy my recipes, please hit the subscribe button down there, give the video a thumbs up, leave me comments, and share with all your friends and family. It all helps me, my bakery, my channel grow and bring you new videos every Saturday. Today, a recipe I wrongly thought would be a simple one to make keto. I just gotta stop doing that because it sets me up for disappointment. But sometimes recipes with like the smallest amounts of ingredients and like the simplest ingredients, like regular recipes, are sometimes the hardest to make keto. And I went into this thinking, oh, I know how to make a pecan pie already, and I have a cream cheese cookie recipe. So I'm like, this is gonna be simple. And then it turns out the recipes weren't very similar. Like a pecan tassie crust is literally just butter, cream cheese, and flour. My cream cheese cookie, or cream cheese cookies in general, are butter, cream cheese, a bunch of sugar, some egg yolks, flour. I tried to simplify it, and it proves to be a lot more difficult, especially when you're making only a small batch of something, because it's very minimal ingredients and it's really easy to mess it up. With just the littlest calculation of flours changes the recipe so much because it's such a little amount of dough we're making, because we're making 24 little mini pecan tassies, so it's not a ton of dough. It did take me probably 6 or 7 tries to get the perfect keto pecan tassie, but I figured it out. So let's get on to this pretty basic recipe. Sorry in advance if I sound nasally. I am getting over a cold day after Thanksgiving. Yes, I was sick for Thanksgiving. Fun. But we got to start with the dough for this. 1 stick of salted butter and 3 ounces of cream cheese. I've had this bowl on my stove. It's really cold in here in the mornings. It's very early in the morning. And I turned my oven on right away and I put my ingredients in the bowl and put it on top my stove top to kind of warm up and soften a little bit. And we are going to be using my corn syrup recipe that I put out earlier this week. I want to do another recipe with this, but I already have a pecan pie on my channel, so I thought I'd tackle the pecan tassies. But I have my corn syrup here. I've had this on the stove also, and it makes it so much easier to work with if it's, you know, kind of warmed up a little bit. So I've just had that chilling on my stovetop also, along with my butter and cream cheese. And then I have 1 egg out coming to room temperature. Now I found it is better to use a paddle attachment on the butter and cream cheese than a whisk. I didn't try this until like the 5th test or something, but it definitely helps. I think because similar to my cream cheese frosting recipe, it's kind of hard to combine butter and cream cheese together, especially if they're not exactly the same temperature. So I think the paddle is a little bit more gentler of a way to do it than whisking it like crazy. Can use a hand mixer for this too, but you do got to get this soft and fluffy, so you might be working at it a little bit. Some recipes had sweetener or sugar in the dough, some didn't, but those ones upped it in the filling. So I just put 1 tablespoon of granular monk fruit erythritol in here. You're not going to want to use allulose for this because it'll probably make the crust even softer than it already is, and you can get too much browning from allulose. You already have allulose in the corn syrup, and you can use allulose as the filling also. So 1 tablespoon is 12 grams. I just go like that, and it's actually a little bit less. So while that's going, getting nice and light and fluffy, you can get your dry ingredients. So I'm just gonna get them real quick. It's only 3 ingredients. The hard part was figuring out the ratios so that it was easy enough to work with and it wasn't tough. Because every other test I did until this one, the crust was tough because we literally have to add the least amount of ingredients for the dough to come together and work. It's hard to get it just right to get a nice soft buttery crust for our pecan tassies. I kept trying half batches, like making 12 little pecan tassies, and because it's such a small amount of dough, it kept being tough because I'd add a 1/16 of a teaspoon of xanthan gum to a half batch and it was still tough. So I add a 1/16 of a teaspoon of this xanthan gum to the recipe and it's perfect. But I've noticed this xanthan gum is more yellow and a little bit more strong than my last bag of Anthony's xanthan gum. So that could be the culprit, but there's not much I can do about it. Like, keto ingredients are just so different you know, even bag to bag. I don't think if you use a 1/16 of a teaspoon of any other xanthan gum, it's not gonna work. Like, if anything, this is still too strong for this batch. So if you have just a regular xanthan gum that's not extra strong like this one, it should work fine. So besides that, it's just my flour mix. Unflavored whey protein isolate, which I'm sure concentrate would work. I was gonna plug this in and I didn't. Hold please. Okay, I did buy a new scale, but I'm not sure my thoughts on it yet. So I don't know. It's a OXO, and I like this feature, but I don't like the screen. There's like a covering on it. There's a glare and I can't really read it. 40 grams or a half cup. This is the kind of recipe that can act differently if it's not weighed out properly, because there's such little amount of ingredients that being a couple grams off could make it spread more or brown more or not come together exactly right. Similar to my butter cookie recipe, I know people were having problems with it spreading because you don't want your butter cookie spread out. You want it to keep the shape of the pipe. And it's because if you're not weighing it, you might be a couple grams off and it makes it spread. And then just 20 grams of coconut flour. I measured it out in tablespoons and teaspoons for you, and I got 3 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon equaled 20 grams on my scale. 20 grams, and like I said, only a 1/16 of a teaspoon of xanthan gum. So I don't even have a 1/16 of a teaspoon measure, so I just like take my 1/8 and try to fill it up just like halfway, and that's it. I'm gonna start whipping up my butter, cream cheese, and sweetener until light and fluffy. Then we're gonna add this and we're gonna have to chill it for a little while. Probably gonna have to give it a couple scrape downs. The big thing is on the paddle, that stuff gets stuck and doesn't get whipped up. Sometimes what I do too is put a hot towel underneath my bowl if it's really cold in your house or kitchen to warm everything up a little bit so that it fluffs up easier, because right now it is pretty cold and it's not really beating up. I've gotten beaten around the pad a little bit better. Hopefully it'll whip up nice and fluffy. Okay, so it's finally starting to do something here. This is what happens when it is only 64 degrees in here, and even though this has been out for like, 30 minutes on my stove, it's still pretty cold. So no one talks about this stuff in recipes. They're always just like, cream the butter and cream cheese until it's nice and fluffy. Well, what happens when this happens, We're gonna keep going on this, rewarming if we need to. I've done it twice so far. Definitely, if you can, pull it out before you have your coffee in the morning so that it's a little bit room temperature by the time you go to make these. Apologize if there's noise. Van and my husband are upstairs, but I just figured this recipe out and I wanted to get it up next week. We're getting pretty light and fluffy in there. You just want it all to be cohesive too. Like, as you can see, you got some like melted bits. They don't seem cohesive, so it worries me that might mess up the dough. Okay, see, it took one more warming to get it more cohesive. So now it's super light and fluffy. And that's what you want. Make sure everything is in there and whipped up good before adding the dry ingredients. Okay, I think we're good. Now, the other problem I had besides the toughness of the dough was the filling leaking underneath the crust. Even though I was doing thick crust, it was leaking underneath. And I think the culprit, I didn't pinpoint it exactly, just the last test I did, I beat this with the flours much longer than the previous tests because I think I was getting tiny pockets of butter in there that, because it's not a solid dough, it ended up leaking. And it would like push the tart up and there'd be like a layer of the jelly underneath. So definitely mix this really well with the little bit of dry ingredients you have. See, like, it looks mostly incorporated, but I kept scraping and mixing a little bit more, especially you get butter up here. So here, after I scraped off the paddle, I made sure to mix it again really well. If you go and watch my last year's Christmas cookie video, I explain, because I make the cream cheese cookie and I make a chocolate cookie. And you can see in the chocolate cookie how much butter there's left in the bottom of the bowl after adding the dry ingredients, because chocolate, you know, shows the difference. Here you can't tell what's butter and what's flour. And you want to get as much off here as possible because it's literally just enough for 24 mini tarts. I kind of wish I could have went back and altered it again just to make the tiniest bit more dough, but I got it and I was like, oh, these are so good. I didn't want to mess with it anymore. So we're only putting like 10 grams of dough in each mini pecan tassie. Drop something up there. Hopefully it wasn't Van's head. This dough is a little bit soft to work with. So I throw it into the freezer for like 5 minutes so that we can scoop it. And then I let it chill in the freezer, scooped, while we get our filling ready. So I kind of thin it out a little bit to try and chill it down a little bit faster. Then I'm using this scoop and I'm weighing them on a scale because I hate getting to the end and not having enough dough for the last one. This scoop, I'll have them linked below, but it's kind of like divvied out a little bit. I think this is 1 tablespoon. I'm going to use that small sheet pan with a small piece of parchment paper and my scale, and I'll have that ready to go, and then that should be ready to scoop. Okay, spend 5 minutes. Obviously, if your mixer bowl won't fit in your freezer, you can put it into something else. Put it flat on something, that way you can easily get it cooled faster. But this makes it much easier to work with. 10 grams each. So I'm just kind of like hollowing it out a little bit. Obviously you want to get 24, but obviously it's not the end of the world if you don't. You just might have a little bit of filling left. So I'm still going to be short. I only had a couple that were 11. I might have enough for 3. See, you get all that that's just like scraped in there. Scraping the spatula gives you a bunch more. Okay, now we're gonna let these chill for 20 minutes and we're gonna get everything else ready to go while those are chilling in the freezer. Okay, so the first thing is you need your 24 mini muffin pans. Now I found it is very crucial to spray these nicely. This guy doesn't mist it like a nice even spray. I do have 1 can of this left, so this is what I'm going to use to spray these, because you want a nice even coating on there or it'll stick, or you'll have a pool in the bottom and it'll be hard to get the dough to like get up the sides and stuff. So I definitely suggest something that has like a nice even spray to it. Like that one has too much in it. It takes some of that out. So we set that to the side. Okay, for the filling, it is a pecan pie filling. It's literally just sweetener, egg, corn syrup, and butter. The easiest thing I found, definitely weighing the corn syrup, because it is a pain to put it in a tablespoon. But what I did, because I wanted to measure it out for you to make sure the grams were similar to the tablespoons that I was doing. 2 tablespoons or 40 grams of corn syrup. After I weighed out the butter, I lined this tablespoon with butter and then used that to measure out the corn syrup. I'm using a scale, because that's even easier than trying to do the tablespoon measures. So I figure you need melted butter anyways to do, you know, any pecan pie filling. So what I do is I heat up the butter and the corn syrup together so that it's easier to mix into the sweetener and egg. So 28 grams or 2 tablespoons of butter and 40 grams or 2 tablespoons. Heat that medium power in my microwave until it's all nice and melted. So for the egg and sweetener, I use a tall cylindrical container, and I'm just using my hand mixer with the whisk attachment to beat those up good, because our sweetener doesn't like to dissolve like regular sugar does. So it's about a minute on 50% power. I'll mix it up a little bit. Allulose does not like to combine with butter though, so it's gonna kind of stay like separated in there. But as long as it's warm, you're good to go. So I saw anywhere from a 1/2 cup to 3/4 of a cup. I did a 1/2 cup packed of the Locanto packable brown sugar, brown sweetener, which I figured was about 90 grams. Then 1 large egg, which should be 50 grams. And that's all our filling ingredients. Oh, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Oh, and then the last thing you need, 56 grams of chopped up pecans. So I'm just gonna whisk this up. I'm gonna put it on a little bit lower speed than I did yesterday. It got pretty frothy. You don't want it too volumized in there. Gonna add the egg and sweetener into here while whisking. My oven is preheated to 350 already. It's gonna take us a bit to get the tart molds done, but you never want to use your oven as soon as it beeps because it's probably not at the right temperature. All our sweeteners at the bottom. The allulose does dissolve a little bit better than the Keto does. Okay. That's good to go. You may need to mix it as you're pouring it into all your other molds. That's all ready to go. Okay, I'm gonna start by pulling only 8 balls out at a time and getting them in there because it does take a minute and you wanna work with them when they're pretty solid because it's so much easier. So I put them round side down in there and then I squish them down all the way like that. So once you got it in there, I'm gonna work it up the sides. I hate having to turn my pan a bunch, so I usually just do one side at a time and then go back and turn my pan and do the other side. I tried a bunch of different ways to do this, but this is the easiest way. I didn't try it on my last test, but I tried doing that. I just worry it gets too thin down there. That's the problem. That'll help a little bit. So I do a pretty thin crust. It does puff a little bit, so you get a decent size crust still. I think it gives a little head start at least. Then I turn it and then do the other side, just like that. I believe they do make a tool for this, but I have not tried it on this dough, obviously. I don't have one, so I'm not sure how it would work with our keto dough. But I'm guessing you'd have to have it pretty solid because it will stick to probably anything you try to put in there if it's not frozen. I'm not gonna bore you with all these, so meet you back here when we're all ready to go. Okay, after I got the first 8 done, I pulled out the next 8, and they were getting pretty hard to work with because they were getting so hard. I ended up just pulling out all 16, and I was able to get them all in there nice. And then after I was all done, I kind of went back and fixed them up a little bit more just because they were a little bit softer, easier to work with. But you really don't want like a super thin bottom, so I'm hoping some of these are gonna be okay. I kind of went a little thin on some of them. Ugh. But when they get too soft, the dough just literally just melts away from it. So gotta be careful. It is a very buttery, soft dough. Oh, that's gonna be good enough for me. Okay, I measure the filling out because, you know, I want equal parts in all of it. I wanna make sure we have enough for everything. So about 2 grams of pecans in each one, but it's literally just like in the bottom. So most recipes said to mix this into the filling, but I found that every time I would scoop a scoop of filling up, I would get different amounts of pecans in there, and at the end I didn't have a ton of pecans left, so I decided to do it like this instead so that everybody gets pecans. Okay, so sweetener usually settles down to the bottom, so we gotta mix it back up again, and we do 8 in each one. It's pretty much just right to the top of the crust. I'm not really paying attention, I should be. Can't count that high. Okay, I do give a little tap, and I do put it on a half sheet tray. That's the only thing about doing the nuts first. You can get some air pockets. Now, most recipes said 20 to 24 minutes. I found in my oven, I have a thermometer in there, I kept it at 350, about 14 minutes. But I haven't done a full 24 since like my 3rd test, I think. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it. But I'm gonna start with 7, turn it 7, and see where we're at. Into the oven. So I set it for, I knew that was gonna die. Set it for another 7 minutes. It might need a little bit longer just because my oven is looking like it's a little bit lower than 350, but we'll check back in 7 minutes. Okay, we have 1 minute left and I'm already smelling it. I think they do need 2 more minutes. Just because the edge ones look done, but the middle ones don't. I was wondering if that was gonna be the case too, because I haven't made a full 24 since like the 3rd test where I thought I had it. So I made 24 and I didn't. Okay, I'll pull them out and temp them real quick. They're looking mostly done. The ones on the edges are definitely more done than the ones in the middle. So I might give it 2 more minutes just to be safe. The filling is done, but I just worry that these aren't brown enough in the middle. Hopefully when I get my new oven, this won't happen and they'll bake evenly, I hope. Okay, so it's been a total of 18 minutes. And they look more golden brown most of the way around. The butter does just seep back into the shells and everything, like it did on the outside of these ones. But we gotta let these chill for about 5 minutes and then we can pop them out and put them onto a cooling rack I already have ready to go. Okay, it's been 5 minutes, so let's get these guys out of here and hope they come out. Come on, little guys. There we go. Perfect little pecan tassie. Now, unlike most of my recipes that are delicious right out of the oven, these are kind of like a lot of my cookie recipes. You kind of want it to set up to get the texture nice. You want to kind of eat it at room temperature. But come on, guy. Ooh. They're a little bit of a pain. Maybe they could have cooked a little bit longer still. Oop, would have stiffened up a little bit more in there. It's very soft, buttery crust. So hopefully if you have a better oven than me, they'll cook a little bit more evenly. I did purchase a new oven, but not technically gonna be mine for a whole year. Well, that one popped out fine. This is a recipe I've never made before. Not in culinary school or pastry school, not in high school culinary class. So if you have tips and tricks for me, definitely let me know down in the comments below, because I just went off people's regular pecan tassie recipes and there wasn't really any like struggle with it. They're just like, do this, 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 and this, and ta-da. So I'll take all the tips and tricks you got if this is one of your go-to holiday cookie table things. Maybe it's just how I press them in specifically. I don't know. I did them all the same. I feel like I sprayed them all evenly. Some of them pop out so nicely. Some of them don't. I wonder if I should put these ones back in. The middle definitely did not get very done. Still have my oven on. I'm gonna pop these ones back in. Hi, boy. Honey, mommy's shooting. Gotta put these back in. Now that they're cool, probably gonna need like 5 minutes to warm back up and start cooking again, so. Okay, they've been in for another 8 minutes. So they're all golden brown now. So we gotta let these cool again. But apparently maybe the original recipes, 20 to 24 minutes is how long you need to cook them, even though the outside ones were getting darker. But that's also another thing with our keto ingredients. Coconut flour usually browns faster than regular flour, so the outsides are gonna get more dark. We're just gonna let the ones back there cool a little bit longer and then we'll give them a taste. Okay, they're pretty much at room temperature, close to anyways. But we had a couple that stuck. Like I said, I've never made pecan tassies before, so maybe the trick is baking a little bit longer than you think. Let me know. But some of them, like I said, got nice and dark and golden brown, so. With that pecan goo in the middle. Crust super buttery. There's a little bit of tang from that cream cheese. This has twice as much cream cheese butter ratio as my cream cheese cookies does. So you definitely get that little bit of tang from the cream cheese, but it's super buttery, sweet, yummy filling. They're delicious. Put up here the nutrition facts. For 2, it still didn't even say 1 net carb, so I put it up to 3 for a portion, and it is 1 gram of net carbs. But the calories are kind of high. So do with that what you will, but it's the holidays, you know, get back to counting calories later. As long as you can stick to keto for the holidays. It'll be a lot easier to get on that weight loss train again after the holidays. They're so yummy. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if this is one that you make every year for the holidays, you can make it keto now and have a delicious cookie dessert table spread. If you want cinnamon rolls or sticky buns or brownies or anything like that from my website for your holiday parties, definitely put your order in sooner rather than later. Next Saturday is the last Saturday to put your orders in order to get baked goods before Christmas. So, friendly reminder, put those orders in. Don't forget to check out my Amazon shop page. The link is down in the description box below, along with the blog link to the full recipe. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. As always, I'll be back with many more keto, low-carb, healthy meals, desserts, and snack recipes. Bye, guys. Happy keto baking and happy holidays.